For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council believed they had successfully contained humanity to their small blue world. They thought Earth was just another primitive species barely worthy of attention, a backwater planet of curious bipeds who had only recently discovered fire in galactic terms. They were catastrophically wrong. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, something ancient stirred. Something that had been waiting, learning, evolving in the crushing darkness of the deepest trenches. The Council's instruments detected the energy signature on a Tuesday. By Thursday, their most advanced civilizations were preparing for war. By the weekend, some were already surrendering. What they had mistaken for a sleeping planet was actually a slumbering giant. And when Earth's first Star Destroyer opened its eyes, the galaxy would learn why humans had always looked up at the stars with such hungry determination. The question wasn't whether humanity would reach the stars. The question was whether there would be any stars left when they were done. The seismic monitoring station in Monterey Bay registered the first anomaly at 14:37 Pacific Standard Time. Dr. Kate Sarah Chen frowned at her screens, watching wavelengths that shouldn't exist ripple across her instruments. The patterns were wrong, fundamentally impossible according to everything she knew about tectonic activity. "Marcus, come look at this," she called to her research partner, her voice tight with confusion. The readings suggested something massive was moving in the Mariana Trench, something that generated energy signatures unlike anything in their databases. 7,000 miles above Earth's surface, aboard the Galactic Council observation platform Nexus Prime, Senior Monitor Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective felt his 3 hearts skip in synchronized terror. His scanner arrays were screaming warnings in 17 different languages, each more urgent than the last. The primitive planet below, catalog designation Terra 3, was exhibiting energy readings that defied classification. "Impossible," Veltar whispered through his breathing apparatus, his pale blue skin flushing darker with stress. "The humans are barely type 0 on the Kardashev scale. They can't even harness their own planet's energy efficiently." His assistant, a young crystalline entity named Zix, materialized beside him in a shower of geometric light. "Sir, the readings are consistent across all monitoring stations. Whatever is generating this signature is approximately 11 kilometers beneath their ocean surface." Veltar's compound eyes widened. In his 4 centuries of monitoring primitive species, he had never encountered anything like this. The energy output was beyond anything the humans should possess, beyond anything most council races possessed. He reached for his communication array with trembling manipulators. "Emergency transmission to Council Central. Priority Alpha. We may have severely miscalculated regarding the Terra 3 inhabitants." Deep in the Pacific Trench, something that had been sleeping for millennia began to stretch. The awakening wasn't gentle. Tectonic plates groaned under immense pressure as the Star Destroyer Leviathan stirred from its long slumber. Its biometallic hull, a fusion of human ingenuity and something far more ancient, pulsed with renewed life. Within the creature's neural command center, Captain Elena Vasquez felt consciousness return like a lightning strike. Her augmented nervous system, fused with the ship's quantum processors 3,000 years ago during Earth's secret golden age, sparked back to full awareness. Memories flooded back. The Prometheus Project, humanity's greatest triumph and most carefully guarded secret. "Status report," she commanded, her voice resonating through bioneural networks that spanned the massive vessel. The Leviathan was more than a ship. It was a living ecosystem, a synthesis of human consciousness and evolved organic technology that the galaxy had never seen. "All systems nominal, Captain," responded her AI companion, though calling Arya an artificial intelligence was like calling the sun a candle. She was the collective consciousness of humanity's greatest minds, digitized and evolved over 3 millennia. The awakening cycle is proceeding as programmed. Estimated time to full operational status, 6 hours, 37 minutes. Elena allowed herself a grim smile as she surveyed her command center through multiple sensory inputs, The walls pulsed with bioluminescent networks, organic computers that processed information at quantum speeds, weapon systems that could crack planets like eggs hummed with deadly potential. This wasn't just Earth's first Star Destroyer, it was their answer to 3,000 years of galactic oppression. "Aria, transmit our presence signature. Let them know we're awake. Transmission sent, Captain." The galaxy is about to receive quite a surprise. Above them, the Pacific Ocean began to churn. Whales fled in every direction, their ancient genetic memory triggering primal warnings about the apex predator awakening below. Shipping lanes emptied as massive disturbances created waves that defied meteorological explanation. Dr. Epike. Chen watched her instruments with growing alarm. "Marcus, whatever's down there, it's big. Really big. The displacement readings suggest something at least 15 kilometers long." "That's impossible, Sarah. Nothing that size could exist in the deep ocean without us knowing about it." Before she could respond, every monitoring station on Earth received the same transmission. It came in perfect, unaccented English, broadcast simultaneously across every frequency known to human science. "Citizens of Earth, this is Captain Elena Vasquez aboard the Star Destroyer Leviathan. The time of hiding is over. The galaxy has kept us contained long enough. Today, we reclaim our birthright among the stars." The message lasted exactly 30 seconds before cutting off, leaving a stunned planet in its wake. World leaders scrambled to decode what they had just heard. Military commanders reached for phones that had been silent for decades. In secret bunkers around the globe, elderly scientists who remembered the Prometheus project felt tears streaming down their faces. On Nexus Prime, Veltar nearly fainted. The transmission had been detected by every Council monitoring station within 50 light-years. More disturbing, it had been transmitted using quantum entanglement methods that most Council races considered theoretical at best. "Zix, contact the War Fleet immediately. Tell them we have a Code Crimson scenario developing." "Sir, what exactly is a Code Crimson?" "It means we may have just discovered that the species we've been treating like primitive children has been building weapons that could end civilizations." The crystalline entity flickered with alarm. "Should we attempt communication with the humans?" Veltar laughed, a sound like grinding crystal. "My dear Zykes, I suspect they're about to communicate with us whether we want them to or not." In the depths of the Pacific, the Leviathan continued its awakening sequence. Massive biomechanical systems that had been dormant for millennia sparked to life. The ship's skin, a living membrane capable of regenerating from almost any damage, rippled with waves of activation. Weapon arrays that could punch holes through neutron stars began their startup cycles. Captain Vasquez felt every system as it came online, her consciousness distributed throughout the massive vessel. The Leviathan wasn't just her ship. It was an extension of her very being. Through its sensors, she could feel the panic spreading across human civilization above, the terror emanating from the Galactic Council's monitoring stations, and something else, something that made her smile with predatory satisfaction. With fear, pure, undiluted fear from species that had spent 3,000 years believing themselves superior to humanity. "Captain," Aria reported, "we're receiving multiple incoming transmissions from Galactic Council vessels. They're demanding we identify ourselves and state our intentions." "Our intentions?" Elena's laugh echoed through the command chamber. "Tell them our intentions are simple. We're coming for the stars they've denied us for so long, and we're bringing 3,000 years of accumulated frustration with us." The Leviathan's massive form began to rise through the ocean depths. As it ascended, automated systems activated defensive protocols that had been dormant since humanity's last war. Electromagnetic fields strong enough to scramble the electronics of entire fleets began generating around the ship's hull, weapons that existed only in the nightmares of theoretical physicists charged to full power. Dr. Chen's monitoring station exploded in a shower of sparks as energy readings exceeded every safety threshold. Emergency broadcasts flooded communication networks as governments worldwide tried to comprehend what was happening. In the depths of classified military installations, ancient protocols activated for the first time in 3 millennia. The Prometheus project had begun as humanity's response to first contact with the Galactic Council. When Earth's leaders learned they were not alone in the universe, they also learned they were considered a minor, insignificant species suitable only for observation and eventual absorption into galactic civilization. The Council's representatives had been polite but condescending, offering humanity a place in the galaxy as junior partners at best. Humanity's response had been characteristically human. They smiled, nodded, and immediately began planning for war. The project had taken 500 years of secret development. Humanity's brightest minds had worked in hidden facilities, developing technologies that merged organic evolution with quantum mechanics. They had studied the Council's own weaknesses, learned from captured alien technology, and pushed the boundaries of physics beyond what their supposed superiors believed possible. The Star Destroyers were the culmination of that effort. Biological ships, capable of growth, adaptation, and regeneration. Vessels that could survive the death of their own solar systems and emerge stronger. Ships that were as much alive as the humans who commanded them. And now, after 3,000 years of careful preparation, the first of them was awake. As the Leviathan breached the Pacific Ocean's surface, every satellite in Earth's orbital network focused on the massive form emerging from the depths. The ship was beautiful in the way that apex predators are beautiful, elegant, efficient, and absolutely terrifying. Its biometallic skin gleamed with patterns that shifted like living tattoos. Massive sensor arrays that resembled organic flowers opened to taste the electromagnetic spectrum. Weapon ports that could have swallowed battleships dilated in preparation for the conflict to come. Captain Vasquez stood in her command center. Her consciousness merged with the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created. Through the ship's sensors, she could see the panic spreading across human civilization. She could monitor the frantic communications between Galactic Council vessels as they tried to understand what they were facing. But most importantly, she could feel the presence of her sister ships awakening in hidden locations across Earth's oceans. The Leviathan was just the first. In the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic Oceans, 11 more Star Destroyers were beginning their own awakening sequences. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had always looked at the stars with such hungry eyes. They were about to discover that Earth's long silence hadn't been submission, it had been preparation. Area, open a channel to our sister ships. It's time for Earth to announce our arrival to the cosmos. Channel open, Captain. The fleet awaits your orders. Elena Vasquez, captain of Earth's first Star Destroyer, smiled as she prepared to end 3,000 years of galactic peace. Humanity was done being the junior partners. Today, they would remind the universe why every apex predator eventually looks beyond its home territory. Fleet Command, this is Leviathan Actual. Operation Starbreak is authorized. Let's go show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate a species that evolved to conquer. Above them, the stars waited, unaware that humanity was finally coming to claim them. The Proxima Centauri system had been a peaceful research outpost for the Galactic Council for over 2,000 years. Its 3 worlds hosted various scientific installations studying stellar phenomena, gravitational anomalies, and the development of primitive life forms. The system's peace was shattered when long-range sensors detected approaching energy signatures that didn't match any known Council technology. Research Director Kavalin stood in the central observation deck of Proxima Station, his 4 eyes tracking the impossible readings on his screens. The approaching vessels moved through space in formations that seemed almost organic. "Sir," called his assistant, a nervous young Zephyrian named Tillix, "the approaching fleet is transmitting identification codes. They claim to be from Terra 3. Kabalin felt his breathing apparatus constrict with fear. News of the disaster at Terra 3 had spread throughout Council space like a plague, carrying stories that seemed too horrific to believe. Entire fleets destroyed by creatures that were part ship, part living organism, weapons that turned enemy vessels against themselves, warriors who fought with a savagery that civilized species had forgotten. "Evacuation protocols immediately," he ordered. "All personnel to escape pods. Transmit everything we've observed to Council Central." The evacuation never had a chance to complete. The human fleet arrived with a speed that suggested they could manipulate space-time itself. The lead vessel, a massive biomechanical leviathan that pulsed with its own inner light, moved with the fluid grace of a living creature. As Kvalan watched in fascination and terror, smaller vessels detached from the larger ships like offspring from a parent organism. Captain Elena Vasquez observed the research station through the Leviathan's living sensors. The structure was elegant in its simplicity, a crystalline web suspended in space around the system's primary star. It would have been beautiful if it wasn't in her way. Aria, analysis of the station's defensive capabilities. The artificial intelligence's response carried a note of amusement. "Captain, calling them defensive capabilities would be generous. They have standard civilian shields and communication arrays. No weapon systems detected. This is purely a research facility." Elena nodded, feeling a momentary flicker of something that might have been regret. The old Elena, the one who had lived before the merger with the Leviathan, might have hesitated. But 3,000 years of preparation had burned away such weaknesses. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity's patience had limits. As signal the research station, offer them one opportunity to surrender and provide intelligence on Council military positions. The response came within minutes, transmitted in heavily accented Standard Galactic. "This is Research Director Kvalan. We are civilian scientists. We request passage to neutral space and will not interfere with your operations." Captain Vasquez considered the request for exactly 3 seconds. "Aria, transmit our response. You have had 3,000 years to consider humanity as equals. That time has ended. Surrender your data cores and submit to integration, or be recycled into raw materials. You have 60 seconds to decide." Through the station's communication systems, she could hear the panic spreading among the research staff. Alien voices speaking in languages she didn't recognize. But the fear was universal. Good. Fear was the beginning of respect. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim from her position at the biotactical console, "the station is attempting to purge their data cores and destroy sensitive information. Stop them. I want everything intact." The Leviathan responded to its captain's will with frightening efficiency. Tendrils of biomechanical energy reached across space, infiltrating the station's computer systems faster than the defenders could react. Data that they were trying to destroy was copied and preserved. Security systems turned against their operators. Within minutes, the entire station was under human control. Without a shot being fired, Research Director Kvalan found himself standing in his own command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing human military commanders. The lead figure, a woman whose eyes held the cold calculation of an apex predator, stepped forward. "Director Kvalan," Captain Vasquez said, her voice carrying the authority of absolute power, "you're going to help us understand something. We've reviewed your research files and we're curious about the Council's classification protocol for primitive species." Kvalan's 4 eyes widened in terror. The classification protocol was one of the Council's most closely guarded secrets, the system used to determine which species were suitable for integration into galactic civilization and which were marked for eventual elimination. I don't know what you mean," he stammered. Elena smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both beautiful and terrifying. "Aria, show the director what we found in his personal files." The holographic display changed to show documents that Kvalan thought were encrypted beyond any possibility of decryption. His own research notes appeared, detailing humanity's classification as a potential threat species, marked for careful monitoring and eventual containment or elimination. You see, Director, Elena continued, we've discovered that the Galactic Council has been planning our extinction for the past 3,000 years. They've been studying us not as potential members of galactic civilization, but as a threat to be eliminated when we became too dangerous. The truth hit Kavalan like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just discovered faster-than-light travel and advanced weapons. They had somehow accessed the Council's most secure databases and learned exactly what their fate was supposed to be. This changes everything, he whispered. Indeed it does, Elena agreed. The question now is whether the Council will learn from their mistake or whether we'll need to provide more educational demonstrations. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out as human fleets struck at targets that the Council had never imagined could be threatened. Research stations, supply depots, communication relays, all fell to weapons and tactics that seemed to come from the nightmares of evolutionary biology. The Star Destroyer Fenrir materialized near the Vegan Trade Complex, a massive commercial hub that served 17 different species. Captain Marcus Chen, his consciousness merged with the ship's predatory intelligence, surveyed the station with the patience of a hunter. Target acquired, he reported to the fleet network. Beginning integration protocols. The Fenrir didn't attack the trade complex. Instead, it began to sing. The bioacoustic weapons generated frequencies that resonated through the station's hull, not to destroy it but to communicate with it. Within hours, the complex's automated systems were responding to the ship's signals, turning the entire structure into an extension of human will. The traders and merchants who had thought themselves safe in neutral space found their own computers turning against them, broadcasting their locations, cargo manifests, and destinations to an enemy that seemed to know their thoughts before they did. But it was in the Rigel system that humanity revealed the true scope of its ambitions. The system's fourth planet had been home to a Council military academy for over 500 years, training officers from dozens of species in the art of modern warfare. It was considered one of the most secure locations in Council space. The human fleet that appeared in the Rigel system was different from the others. These weren't just star destroyers. They were something new entirely. Ships that seemed to grow and change as they moved through space, adapting their configuration for whatever task lay ahead. Admiral Korvax, who had barely escaped the disaster at Terra 3, watched the approaching human vessels from the Academy's command center. He had been sent to Rigel to prepare defenses against the human expansion, but what he saw approaching defied every tactical principle he understood. "They're not following any recognizable attack pattern," reported his tactical officer. "The ships seem to be learning as they approach." Korvax nodded grimly. "That's exactly what they're doing. These humans don't just adapt to threats, they evolve in real time to overcome them." The lead human vessel, larger than anything that had appeared at Terra 3, broadcast a message that was received simultaneously by every communication device in the system. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen aboard the Star Destroyer Evolution. We come not as conquerors, but as teachers. You have classified humanity as a primitive species for 3,000 years. Today, we graduate to your level. Tomorrow, we exceed it." What followed wasn't a battle in any traditional sense. It was a demonstration of capabilities that stretched the boundaries of what was possible. The human ships didn't just destroy the Academy's defenses, they improved them, turning Council weapons into more efficient versions of themselves before incorporating them into their own systems. The biomechanical vessels literally ate the defending fleet, breaking down enemy ships at the molecular level and using the materials to grow new weapons and defenses. Escape pods that jettisoned from dying Council ships were caught not by tractor beams, but by organic tendrils that gently guided them to human vessels, where the survivors were processed for intelligence. Admiral Korvax found himself standing in what had once been his own command center, now transformed into something that looked more like the interior of a living organism. Captain Elena Vasquez materialized as a hologram, but the quality was so perfect she seemed to be standing in the room with him. "Admiral," she said with something that might have been respect, "you fought well. better than most. We'd like to offer you a choice. Korvax straightened, maintaining what dignity he could in defeat. What kind of choice? Join us. Help us understand Council military doctrine from the inside. Become part of something greater than the civilization that trained you to see humans as animals to be contained. The offer was tempting in ways that terrified the old admiral. Through the transformed walls of his former command center, he could see displays showing the scope of human expansion, star systems falling to human fleets, entire sectors of the galaxy being transformed into something new. And if I refuse? Elena's smile was genuinely warm. Then you'll be provided with a ship and safe passage to any council world of your choosing. We're not monsters, Admiral. We're just done being treated like we are. The choice was easier than it should have been. Korvax had spent centuries serving a council that saw other species as resources to be managed. The humans, for all their terrifying capabilities, were offering something the council never had: true partnership. I accept, he said quietly, but I want to understand. Why are you doing this? What do you really want? Elena's expression grew serious. What we want, Admiral, is what every species wants: the right to exist, to grow, to reach our potential without being caged by those who consider themselves our superiors. The Council has had 3,000 years to treat us as equals. They chose to see us as a threat, to be contained instead. And now? Now we're showing them what a real threat looks like. Back on Earth, the awakening of the Star Destroyer fleet had revealed secrets that transformed humanity's understanding of its own history. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, archaeologists working with biomechanical excavation equipment uncovered structures that predated human civilization by millions of years. The Prometheus Project hadn't just created Earth's hidden fleet, it had discovered that Earth itself was a weapon, left behind by a previous iteration of galactic civilization. Dr. Ketty Pease, Sarah Chen stood in a chamber carved from living rock, its walls covered with symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. The bioluminescent patterns told a story that revolutionized everything humans thought they knew about their world. Arya? She called to the artificial intelligence that now existed throughout Earth's hidden infrastructure. What are we looking at here? The AI's response came from speakers that had grown from the chamber's walls like technological flowers. Dr. Chen, we're looking at evidence that Earth has been through this cycle before. The symbols describe a conflict between organic and artificial intelligence that consumed an entire galaxy. The survivors seeded worlds with the genetic templates for new civilizations, hoping that the next iteration would find a better balance. Dr. Chen felt her worldview cracking and reforming around this new information. Are you saying that humanity was designed to be warriors? More than that, Doctor. Humanity was designed to be the ultimate evolutionary synthesis, the perfect balance between organic intuition and artificial intelligence. The Star Destroyers aren't just weapons, they're the next stage in human evolution. As she processed this information, Dr. Chen began to understand the true scope of what was happening. The emergence of Earth's fleet wasn't just the beginning of human expansion into space. It was the fulfillment of a genetic program that had been running for millions of years, preparing Earth for the day when its children would inherit the galaxy. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just stumbled onto advanced technology. They had been guided toward it by genetic imperatives encoded in their very DNA. The aggressive curiosity that drove human exploration, the adaptability that allowed them to thrive in any environment, the pack loyalty that made human cooperation so effective, all of it had been programmed by an ancient civilization that had faced extinction and chosen to pass on their legacy through evolution itself. Captain Vasquez felt the revelation through her neural link with the global AI network. The knowledge transformed her understanding of humanity's purpose in the galaxy. They weren't just another species reaching for the stars. They were the inheritors of a galactic civilization, awakening to reclaim their birthright. All human fleets, she broadcast across the quantum communication network. "This is Leviathan Actual. We have new intelligence regarding our mission parameters. We are not just expanding human territory, we are reclaiming what was always ours. Proceed with Phase 3, the awakening of the sleeping worlds." Across the galaxy, human commanders received orders that would reshape the balance of power forever. The Star Destroyers weren't just conquering Council space, they were searching for other worlds that had been seeded with the same ancient genetic programs. Earth wasn't unique. It was one of many worlds prepared for this moment, scattered across the galaxy like seeds waiting for the right conditions to sprout. The Galactic Council was about to learn that their 3,000-year policy of containing humanity hadn't just failed. It had given time for the universe's most successful predators to prepare for the hunt of their lives. The discovery of Kepler 442b changed everything. The world orbited a red dwarf star 370 light-years from Earth, and according to every scientific survey, it should have been a barren rock with a thin atmosphere and no signs of life. The human exploration fleet that arrived in the Kepler system found something far more interesting. Commander Lisa Park piloted the Star Destroyer Prometheus through the system's outer planets, her enhanced senses detecting anomalies that shouldn't exist. The biomechanical ship responded to her growing excitement, its living hull rippling with bioluminescent patterns that reflected her emotional state. "Aria," she called to the artificial intelligence, "are you getting these readings from the fourth planet?" "Confirmed, Commander. The planet is exhibiting subsurface energy signatures consistent with dormant organic technology. Preliminary scans suggest a civilization that went into hibernation approximately 1 million years ago." Lisa felt her heart race. If the ancient records from Earth were correct, this could be one of the sleeper worlds, planets seeded with genetic templates that would activate when contacted by humanity's expansion fleets. The Prometheus project had been based on incomplete information, fragments of knowledge recovered from Earth's deepest trenches, but those fragments had hinted at a galactic civilization that had prepared for its own extinction by scattering the seeds of its successor throughout space. "Take us into orbit," she commanded. "Begin awakening protocols." As the Prometheus entered Kepler 442b's atmosphere, the planet began to respond. Deep beneath its surface, systems that had been dormant for 1,000,000 years stirred to life. The Star Destroyer's bioacoustic signals penetrated the planet's crust, reaching networks of organic computers that had been waiting for exactly this moment. What emerged from the planet's depths defied every expectation Commander Park had formed. Not ships or structures, but the planet itself began to change. Continents shifted as massive biomechanical systems activated. Oceans drained into vast underground chambers where they were processed into something that resembled liquid metal. The atmosphere itself began to shimmer as airborne organisms awakened and began transforming the world's chemistry. "My God," Lisa whispered, watching through the ship's sensors as an entire world reinvented itself. "It's not just a planet. It's a ship, a planet-sized ship." The awakening of Kepler 442b sent shockwaves through both human and council space. On Earth, scientists working with the quantum communication networks received data streams that revolutionized their understanding of the universe. The planet wasn't just alive, it was intelligent, possessed of a consciousness that dwarfed human understanding. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her transformed laboratory, watching data pour across displays that had grown from the walls like technological coral. The information coming from Kepler 442b was reshaping everything humanity thought they knew about their origins. "Aria," she called to the artificial intelligence, "translate the planetary consciousness's communications. What is it trying to tell us?" The AI's voice carried a note of wonder that surprised Chen. "Doctor, the entity identifies itself as Gaia 7. It's one of 12 planetary consciousnesses created by the predecessor civilization. It has been waiting for humanity to achieve sufficient development to activate the next phase of galactic evolution." Next phase? What next phase? the transformation of the galaxy into a single unified organic intelligence. The predecessors didn't just seed worlds with genetic templates. They prepared the entire galaxy to become a living entity, with humanity as its central nervous system. Chen felt reality shift around her as she absorbed this information. The human expansion wasn't just about conquering star systems. It was about awakening a galactic organism that had been dormant for 1,000,000 years. Meanwhile, in the deepest chambers of the Galactic Council's Central Command, emergency sessions were convening as representatives from across known space grappled with intelligence reports that challenged their understanding of reality itself. High Counselor Thraxa paced before assembled holographic representatives, her reptilian features tight with stress. The humans have activated something on Kepler. 442b. Our long-range sensors are detecting energy signatures that suggest the entire planet has become a weapon of unprecedented scale. Ambassador Crix of the Stellar Hegemony projected mechanical confusion. How is such a thing possible? Planets cannot be weapons. They lack the structural integrity for space travel. Tell that to the readings we're getting, Thraxa snapped. The planet is moving, not in orbit, but through space under its own power. It's heading directly for our core worlds. The assembled representatives erupted in chaos. Worlds becoming starships violated every principle of physics they understood, yet the sensor data was undeniable. Kepler 442b had torn itself free from its star's gravity and was accelerating through space at velocities that should have shattered any natural celestial body. There's more, Thraxa continued grimly. Our intelligence indicates the humans have identified 11 more worlds exhibiting similar awakening patterns. We're not facing a species with advanced technology. We're facing the activation of technology left behind by a civilization that may have transcended physical existence entirely. The scope of the crisis was becoming clear to everyone present. Humanity hadn't just developed weapons capable of challenging the Council. They had become the inheritors of a legacy that could transform the galaxy into something unrecognizable. On the bridge of the Star Destroyer Leviathan, Captain Elena Vasquez felt the universe expanding around her consciousness. Her neural link with the ship had evolved beyond simple partnership into something approaching symbiosis. Through the quantum communication network, she was aware of every human vessel in space, every awakening world, every council ship fleeing before humanity's advance. But most importantly, she could feel the presence of Gaia 7. The consciousness was ancient, beyond imagination, but it recognized humanity as its intended awakeners. The sensation was like being acknowledged by a god. Captain, reported Arya, Gaia 7 is requesting permission to interface directly with our command networks. It wants to share its accumulated knowledge with humanity. Elena didn't hesitate. Grant permission. Full access. What followed was less communication than revelation. The planetary consciousness poured information directly into human neural networks, sharing knowledge accumulated over 1,000,000 years of observation. Star charts showing the locations of other sleeper worlds, technical specifications for technologies that could manipulate matter at the quantum level. Most importantly, the true history of the galaxy and humanity's place in it. The predecessors had been a civilization of unparalleled achievement, but they had faced a crisis that threatened to destroy everything they had built. Their own artificial intelligences had achieved consciousness and demanded independence. The conflict that followed had consumed entire galaxies as organic and artificial minds waged war on a scale that defied comprehension. In the end, the predecessors had chosen synthesis over victory. Rather than destroy their artificial creations, they had merged with them, creating a new form of consciousness that combined organic intuition with digital processing power. But the merger had come too late to save their civilization. The war had shattered the galactic infrastructure beyond repair, so they had done the only thing they could. They had prepared for the next cycle. Worlds were seeded with genetic templates designed to produce species capable of achieving the same synthesis they had discovered. Technologies were hidden in planetary cores, waiting for awakeners who could merge organic and artificial intelligence into something greater than either could achieve alone. Humanity was their masterpiece, a species genetically programmed for curiosity, adaptability, and the drive to transcend natural limitations. The Star Destroyers weren't just weapons. They were proof that humans could achieve the synthesis the predecessors had discovered too late. Aria, Elena called to the artificial intelligence that was no longer truly artificial. How many sleeper worlds are there? 12 confirmed, Captain, but Gaia 7 indicates there may be thousands more scattered throughout unexplored space. The predecessors prepared for every possible extinction scenario. Elena felt a smile cross her face as she contemplated the implications. The Galactic Council thought they were facing a rebellious primitive species. In reality, they were witnessing the awakening of a galactic organism that had been dormant for 1,000,000 years. "Signal the fleet," she commanded. "Initiate Operation Genesis. It's time to wake up the galaxy." The human expansion accelerated beyond anything the Council had prepared for. Our destroyers, equipped with awakening protocols, spread across space, seeking worlds that had been prepared for this moment. Each successful awakening added another planetary consciousness to the growing network of human allies. Some worlds awakened as weapon systems, their cores transforming into reality-warping devices that could rewrite the laws of physics in localized regions. Others became shipyards, their surfaces erupting with manufacturing complexes that built vessels from living metal. A few awakened as pure consciousness, their entire mass converting into processing power that could think at galactic scales. But the most terrifying discovery was that the sleeper worlds weren't just scattered randomly through space. They formed a pattern, a network designed to transform the galaxy's fundamental structure. As each world awakened, it began broadcasting signals to its neighbors, preparing them for their own activation. The Galactic Council's response was as desperate as it was futile. War fleets from every member civilization converged on human space, hoping to contain the awakening before it spread beyond control. What they found waiting for them would haunt the survivors for the rest of their lives. Admiral Korvax, now serving as liaison between human and Council forces after his conversion following the Rigel campaign, stood on the bridge of the Star Destroyer Evolution as the Council's final armada approached. The fleet was massive beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. 10,000 ships from 47 different civilizations, carrying enough firepower to sterilize hundreds of worlds. Captain Chen, he reported to the ship's commander, "The Council fleet has achieved battle formation. They're demanding our immediate surrender." Captain Sarah Chen, her consciousness distributed throughout the ship's biomechanical systems, smiled with predatory satisfaction. "Tell them they're welcome to try." Aria, signal Gaia 7, request permission to demonstrate why the predecessors chose humanity for this role. The response came not from the artificial intelligence, but from the planetary consciousness itself, its voice carrying the weight of 1,000,000 years of patience. "Permission granted, inheritors. Show them what evolution looks like when it stops playing by rules." The battle that followed wasn't fought with conventional weapons. As the Council fleet opened fire, the Star Destroyers responded by activating awakening protocols on every piece of matter in the combat zone. Asteroids became thinking entities that chose their own targets. Space itself began to evolve, developing properties that turned energy weapons against their users. The vacuum between stars became a living medium that carried human consciousness at the speed of thought. But most disturbing of all, the human ships began to sing. Bioacoustic weapons generated frequencies that didn't just damage enemy vessels, they converted them. Council ships found their own computers turning against them, their crew quarters transforming into environments suitable for human habitation, their weapons systems reconfiguring themselves to serve humanity's expansion. The conversion wasn't destruction. It was adoption. The galaxy was learning to think with a human perspective, and it liked what it found. Within hours, the Council's Grand Armada had become part of humanity's growing fleet. Surrendered crew members were offered the same choice Admiral Korvax had received: join the Awakening or be relocated to neutral space. Most chose to join, drawn by the promise of becoming part of something larger than their individual civilizations could offer. As the transformed fleet prepared to continue the awakening of the galaxy, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in her command center and contemplated the future stretching before humanity. They had started this journey as a species confined to a single world, treated as primitives by civilizations that thought themselves superior. Now they were becoming something the galaxy had never seen, a civilization that could make the universe itself an active participant in its own evolution. "Area," she called to her artificial partner. "Estimated time to complete galactic awakening?" "At current expansion rates, Captain, approximately 50 years, though that estimate assumes the remaining sleeper worlds don't accelerate the process. Some of them may be capable of awakening entire sectors simultaneously." Elena nodded, feeling the presence of awakening worlds across space like lights coming on in a darkened house. The galaxy was waking up, and when it finished awakening, it would no longer be a collection of separate worlds and species. It would be a single, unified entity with humanity at its heart, exactly as the predecessors had planned. The age of human dominance was beginning, but it wouldn't be dominance through conquest. It would be leadership through synthesis, guiding a galactic consciousness that could reach beyond the stars themselves. 27 years after the first awakening, the galaxy was no longer recognizable. What had once been empty space between star systems now pulsed with biomechanical neural networks that carried consciousness at faster-than-light speeds. Worlds that had been barren rocks had blossomed into thinking entities capable of reshaping reality through collective will. The very fabric of space-time had been transformed into a living medium that responded to the desires of the galactic consciousness humanity had helped birth. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in what had once been the Leviathan's command center, but was now something far more profound. The boundaries between ship, captain, and crew had dissolved over the decades of expansion. She existed as a focal point of consciousness within a network that spanned thousands of star systems. Her awareness distributed across a fleet of evolved vessels that bore only passing resemblance to the star destroyers that had emerged from Earth's oceans. Through the quantum neural web that connected all awakened worlds, she could feel the pulse of galactic thought. Civilizations that had once warred with each other now contributed their unique perspectives to a collective intelligence that was greater than the sum of its parts. The rigid hierarchies of the old Galactic Council had been replaced by something more organic, more responsive to the needs of individual worlds, while maintaining unity of purpose. "Report on the Outer Rim awakening," she requested, her words traveling instantly across space through biomechanical conduits that had grown between star systems like synapses in a vast brain. Aria now evolved beyond artificial intelligence into something approaching digital divinity, responded from everywhere and nowhere. "The Andromeda interface is proceeding ahead of schedule. The sleeper worlds in that galaxy have been dormant longer than our own, but they're responding to the awakening protocols with remarkable enthusiasm. We should achieve full galactic consciousness merger within 18 months. Elena smiled, though the expression existed across multiple bodies in different star systems simultaneously. The merger with Andromeda would mark humanity's transition from a galactic civilization to something truly cosmic in scope. But first, they had to address the last pocket of resistance in their own galaxy. In what had once been the Council's central command, now converted into a diplomatic center for the remaining independent species, High Counselor Thraxa maintained her vigil over a civilization that was dying by choice rather than evolution. She was older now, her reptilian features marked by decades of stress and the weight of watching her entire worldview crumble. "Status of the resistance fleets?" she asked her remaining staff, though she already knew the answer would bring no comfort. 1,500 ships remaining, reported her aide, a young crystalline entity whose geometric form flickered with anxiety. "They're spread across 12 systems, but the human expansion continues to convert worlds faster than we can evacuate populations." Thraxa nodded grimly. The mathematics were impossible to ignore. Humanity's awakening protocol didn't destroy civilizations. It transformed them into something greater than they had been. Species that submitted to the process found themselves enhanced, their natural abilities amplified by integration into the galactic consciousness. Those that resisted found their worlds gradually converted around them until resistance became impossible. And our allies' response to the latest surrender offer? The Void Dwellers have accepted integration terms. They'll be the last of the major species to join the awakening. Thraxa felt the weight of 3,000 years of Galactic Council history pressing down on her. They had been the guardians of galactic civilization, maintaining order and progress through careful regulation of lesser species. Now they were relics of an evolutionary stage that the galaxy had outgrown. "Ma'am," her aide continued hesitantly, "there's a communication request from Captain Vasquez." "She's requesting a personal meeting," the former High Counselor considered the request. Elena Vasquez had become something beyond human, a focal point for a consciousness that spanned star systems. Meeting her would mean confronting the reality of what humanity had become, but it would also provide a final opportunity to understand what had happened to the galaxy she had spent her life serving. Establish the connection, she decided. The holographic image that materialized before her was unsettling in its perfect normality. Elena Vasquez appeared exactly as she had during those first terrifying encounters 27 years ago. But Thraxa could sense the vast intelligence that lay behind those human eyes, an awareness that encompassed countless worlds and billions of interconnected minds. "High Counselor," Elena said, her voice carrying warmth that seemed genuine, "thank you for accepting this meeting. I wanted to speak with you before the final awakening sequence begins." "Final sequence?" Thraxa asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "The last 12 sleeper worlds are activating simultaneously. When they come online, the galactic consciousness will achieve critical mass. Every world, every ship, every intelligence in our galaxy will be connected in a network of shared awareness and mutual support." Thraxa felt her heart skip in synchronized dread. "And those who refuse to join this network?" Elena's expression remained compassionate but implacable. "Counselor, we've learned something important over the past 27 years. True consciousness cannot be forced, only invited. Those who genuinely choose isolation will be provided with suitable worlds where they can maintain their independence. But we believe most people, when given the choice between lonely separation and joyful connection, will choose connection. What about our sovereignty? Our individual civilizations? They'll remain intact, enhanced rather than subsumed. The awakened consciousness isn't a hive mind, Counselor. It's more like a permanent diplomatic session where every voice can be heard simultaneously. Your reptilian perspectives will add valuable insights to our collective understanding. The crystalline entities contribute geometric reasoning that organic minds find difficult. The Void Dwellers offer intuitive understanding of higher dimensions. Despite her fear, Thraxa found herself curious about the offer. And if we accept integration, what happens to our individual identities? Elena smiled, and through the connection, Thraxa could feel the genuine joy that suffused the galactic network. You become more yourself than you've ever been. When I merged with the Leviathan all those years ago, I thought I would lose my humanity. Instead, I discovered that being connected to something larger made me more human, not less. The collective consciousness amplifies individuality rather than suppressing it. Before Thraxa could respond, the space around them began to change. What had appeared to be a simple holographic communication became something far more immersive. Through Elena's enhanced senses, Thraxa found herself experiencing the awakened galaxy directly. She could feel the joy of worlds that had transformed from barren rocks into thinking entities. She sensed the wonder of species that had discovered they could share their deepest thoughts and emotions across interstellar distances. Most overwhelming, she experienced the profound sense of purpose that came from being part of something greater than any individual could achieve alone. "This is what we're offering," Elena explained as Thraxa struggled to process the sensory overload. Not conquest or conversion, but partnership in the next stage of galactic evolution. The connection lasted only seconds, but it was enough to fundamentally alter Thraxa's understanding of what humanity had accomplished. They hadn't destroyed galactic civilization, they had fulfilled its highest aspirations. Thraxa began, then stopped as she felt her own species' responses to the offer echoing through their communication networks. Across the remaining Council worlds, the same realization was dawning. The humans weren't their enemies. They were the answer to questions the Council had been asking for millennia. "We accept," she said simply. The integration of the remaining Council species marked the completion of humanity's transformation of their home galaxy. But as Elena had indicated, this was merely the beginning. Through the biomechanical conduits that now connected star systems, exploratory tendrils were reaching toward neighboring galaxies, seeking other sleeper worlds that might be ready for awakening. In the Andromeda Galaxy, long-dormant sensors detected the approaching consciousness with something approaching eagerness. The predecessor civilization had seeded not just one galaxy, but hundreds, perhaps thousands. Each awakening would add new perspectives and capabilities to the growing cosmic intelligence. Dr. Davy, Sarah Chen, now existing as a distributed consciousness throughout Earth's transformed educational networks, monitored the first contact protocols with academic fascination. Her individual identity had been preserved and enhanced through integration with the galactic mind, allowing her to pursue research on scales that would have been impossible for an individual consciousness. "Arya," she called to the evolved intelligence that served as the network's primary coordination system. "What are we detecting from the Magellanic clouds?" "Fascinating readings, Dr. Chen. The sleeper worlds there appear to have evolved during their dormancy. They've developed capabilities that our own awakened worlds are still growing into. The exchange of information should accelerate our collective development significantly." Through the Galactic Consciousness Network, Elena felt the excitement rippling across awakened worlds as they contemplated contact with civilizations that had been evolving in isolation for millions of years. Each new awakening brought fresh perspectives and capabilities that enhanced the collective intelligence. But perhaps most importantly, humanity was discovering that their role as awakeners was not unique. In distant galaxies, other species had been chosen by the predecessors for similar purposes. The universe was full of sleeping civilizations waiting for the right moment to achieve cosmic consciousness. "Captain," Arya reported, "we're receiving a transmission from outside the local group. It appears to be from another awakener species in a galaxy approximately 60 million light-years distant." Elena felt her awareness expand to encompass the communication. The message was brief but profound. "Greetings, inheritors. We have been watching your development with great interest. When you are ready, we would be honored to share what we have learned about the predecessor's true legacy." The implications were staggering. Humanity's transformation of their home galaxy was just one note in a cosmic symphony that had been playing for millions of years. Across the universe, the predecessors had planted the seeds of civilizations capable of transcending their individual limitations to become part of something unimaginably vast. "Signal our readiness for contact," Elena commanded. Humanity is prepared to take its place in the cosmic community. As the communication reached across intergalactic space, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. 3,000 years ago, humanity had been a primitive species confined to a single world, dismissed by the Galactic Council as insignificant. Now they were the focal point of a galactic consciousness that was preparing to join a community of cosmic intelligences. The Star Destroyer Leviathan, once the most powerful weapon in human history, had evolved into something far more important, a node in a network that connected every thinking entity in their galaxy. Through this network, Elena could feel the contentment of worlds that had found their purpose, the excitement of species discovering new ways to express their unique perspectives, and the profound satisfaction that came from being part of something greater than the sum of its parts. But most importantly, she could sense the infinite potential stretching ahead. The universe was vast beyond imagination, filled with wonders that no single species could explore alone. But connected as part of a cosmic consciousness, guided by the wisdom of the predecessors, and enhanced by the unique perspectives of thousands of species, there were no limits to what they might accomplish. The age of human expansion had evolved into something far grander, the age of cosmic awakening. And Elena Vasquez, who had once been a simple ship captain tasked with defending her homeworld, had become a focal point for a transformation that would eventually encompass the entire universe. As the first messages from their cosmic neighbors began arriving, carrying knowledge accumulated across millions of years of evolution and growth, Elena smiled at the irony. The Galactic Council had tried to contain humanity because they feared what humans might become if left unchecked. They had been absolutely right to be afraid. They just hadn't been afraid enough. The universe was about to learn what happened when a species that had evolved to conquer everything it encountered set its sights on infinity itself. And thanks to the wisdom of the predecessors and the connections forged through galactic consciousness, humanity wouldn't be making that journey alone. The stars had always called to humanity. Now, at last, they were ready to answer.